Hello there, this is your average Joe, and I wanted to talk to you about voting rights. Now, this is in response to Alexander Grace and Georgia Free. And this is an open letter to you guys and anyone that endorses you. Now, not attacking your persons, you seem like decent people, but I will be definitely attacking your arguments, which are very, very weak. And they're built on a misunderstanding. So I'm not going to be refuting your individual arguments because I could go on for about an hour doing that. Instead, I'm going to go ahead and correct you on one point, and should you listen to what I have to say, you'll see the rest of your argument falls apart after this one thing. And it seems like you have a fundamental misunderstanding about what voting rights actually are. So let's clear that up really quick. Your right to vote is not a human right. Not every person or citizen has the inherent right to vote. This is not a democracy. This is a republic. So if you live in the United States, you live in a republic. A democratic republic, but a republic nonetheless. It is not a democracy. Now, the 19th Amendment was founded on the concept of the United States being a democracy. It is not. So, and what it is it's a direct violation of the actual Constitution. Because the 19th Amendment made voting a human right. Because it gave rights to vote to people who did not actually build the social contract between themselves and the government in which voting was founded upon. What is the social contract, mind you? Voting in a democratic republic is given to those who have developed a contract with the government, meaning they get to partake in the government's policy making in return for their service to not only just upkeeping their government, but also maintaining it, paying for it, and serving in it. What do I mean by that? Well, men were historically only allowed to vote after signing up for what was called selective service, meaning the draft. This was also predicated with either land ownership, as was originally written by the Founding Fathers, and then later updated to a certain number of properties, so assets. Both of these things basically insinuated that you were a taxpayer. You paid your taxes, therefore you had the right to vote. And by signing up for the draft and remaining in a ready status, meaning being physically, mentally, and emotionally fit, you were then given the right to vote. Now, most modern men fail these standards because just signing up for the draft is not the end of it. You have to be physically, mentally, and emotionally capable. And most men these days seem to not either be physically, mentally, or emotionally capable, but they seem not to want to be. So what you see with most guys who are going MGTOW, though, is these are the guys who would qualify for this stuff. And they also qualify as being members of the citizen population that pay taxes. Not just any taxes, net taxes. What's the difference between a net tax and a tax? Net taxes meaning you're not paying for anything, you're literally just paying. Being a tax, like a normal person with taxes, though, means that you have borrowed money from the government and now you're paying a certain percentage of it back. So aka if you're on welfare, you're not a net taxpayer. You are just a taxpayer if you should be paying your taxes, which most likely you're not. But in any case, what you have the misconception of is that voting should be a human right. It should not be a human right. Because as a result of this misconception, this is the mess that we are in right now. Now, I'm not going to get into the argument about, how exactly the plan works when it comes to taking away women's rights to vote and then changing everything and fixing it. And that's something that I will be more than happy to discuss with either of you, or even both of you, over a live chat stream to my few followers, but to many of yours. So I'd be more than happy to participate in that, and especially go ahead and discuss it, because I would more than be happy to help you guys find the correct answers that you're looking for, which, trust me, more dialogue is not quite the answer. Now, I will say this. The other misconception that both of you have is that everything that is considered a right these days is a human right. You actually only have a few human rights, God-given rights, as bestowed upon you by a higher power in which the American government cannot infringe upon. And they are the basic fundamental three: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, what's interesting is the same system that you guys are saying is not that bad and that we can just deal with it is the same system that is captively and currently infringing upon all three of these: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, how, you ask? Well, with life, it comes down to the last administration conducted more attacks on American citizens than they did even terrorists. Which is interesting, because how do you drone strike American citizens and not have anything happen? Well, that would be a result of the rampant abuse of the Patriot Act, which was updated back in, I do believe, 2014. Instead of getting rid of it, as it was originally intended to do, they just keep adding more powers to it. Interesting. How does liberty come into play? Well, men's liberties are horribly stagnant now, and they're only going to be further infringed upon in order to allow women more liberties. So, go ahead and try and argue with me on that one, but the fact remains that a man cannot do any of the things that women can do because men don't have the same privileges that women have. Women are the most privileged class that has ever existed in the world right now in the United States. Not even queens of past eras had as many privileges as you do now. Let that sink in for a moment. In the pursuit of happiness. Okay, pursuit of happiness does not mean I'm on my way to smiles and, giggles and rainbows and happy. No. The pursuit of happiness is the ability of an individual to determine not only their path in life, but also the opportunities in which they seek, and to obtain property, status, and wealth as they see fit, through their own volition and work. This is not the same as women just skating through life off of the backs of men who have busted their asses all of their life, only to be used by a bunch of very, very misandric, hateful, vengeful witches. Now, again, this is not an attack on either of you. I don't personally care about what you people do, but I just felt that I had to correct this point because I see that no one else really is. Voting is not a human right. Neither is universal health care, education, let's see here, reproductive rights, welfare, or any of the other things that femtards seem to extremely love to just try and push down people's throats. So, I hope this helps. I doubt you'll watch it, but it's an open invitation for you to actually, start to understand what your actual civic rights are and what they do. You have certain rights that are given and basically supposed to be governmentally enforced, that are defined in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, but those are not your divine higher power given rights. Your divine higher power given human rights are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Those are the three that you have automatically that cannot be infringed upon or taken away from you. Everything else, yes, it can be infringed upon and taken away from you. And the 19th Amendment is a direct violation of the principles and the social contracts in which this country was founded upon. And it's the reason why you have men no longer willing to push themselves or really try in a society that will not actually grant them the contract that they have earned the right to use. And instead we have these people who do not do a goddamn thing for society and just leech off of it. And they just keep demanding more and more, and because they're the majority voters, they keep getting what they want. This is how you kill civilizations, is you give the power to citizens who never should have had that power to begin with. Because you mistake a human right with a right that is given off of the basis of honoring a social contract between a citizen and the government. So these individuals did not earn that right, and they should have never had it in the first place. Now, if women start doing what men do, they pay net taxes, they sign up for the draft, they do military service, and when our country calls for them, they go and fight the wars that we fight as well, then yes, they've earned their rights to vote. Until then, no, they do not earn their rights to vote, nor should they. So, because it is a direct slap in the face to all those other people, all those other men and women who did do those things, who do pay net taxes, and who did go and fight and serve for their country. And I don't define service as country as just being in a combat role. So because there are tons of jobs in the United States military that need to be filled in order to make sure the guys on the front lines can do their jobs. And discrediting those jobs because, oh, well, you're not in danger. Well, that depends upon whether or not the base gets attacked. Because Pearl Harbor was a prime example of that. That base was not in danger, and it was a bunch of people who were not in positions of combat roles, and yet they experienced one of the worst attacks of all time. So, in any case, it is not to discredit anyone's particular service, but doing the service there in and of itself in an honorable fashion and, actually putting the boots on and doing something is still goddamn better than sitting here and complaining about people, they're infringing upon my right. You don't have that right. You never earned it. And it's not because, she's a woman. No, you just never actually tried. And I guarantee you that you actually, if you were actually called to go fight, you would break down and cry because you actually have no concept of what you would actually go through in that. So therefore, no, you did not earn your right to vote because you did not honor the contract as was written between the citizen who earned that ability to do so and the government. And the 19th Amendment is a direct slap in the face of all the people who died and served and actually earned their ability to have a voice in the government. And it shows. So, that's my message to you guys. I am more than happy to go ahead and talk this out, but again, I understand I am a nobody on YouTube, and if that's how you want to respond to this, that's completely fine. But just understand that you have a drastic misunderstanding about what it means to have the right to